There is a particular kind of silence that only arrives when you've been thinking too hard. Not the calm silence of clarity, but the heavy hush of stalled motion. You call it planning, you call it prudence, you call it being responsible. But underneath the noble vocabulary, something else is happening. You have built a palace of thought so elaborate that you can no longer find the door. Analysis paralysis is not the absence of intelligence. It is intelligence turned inward until it becomes a cage. It is not a lack of options, but an excess of them. A mind so busy measuring the world that it forgets the only measurement that matters, whether you are moving. We live in an age where information is cheap and attention is expensive, and the internet does not merely offer answers so much as it manufactures endless alternatives. Every decision, what to build, where to live, what to learn, who to become, can be researched into a labyrinth, and there is always another thread to pull, another model to consult, another optimal path lurking just beyond the one you're on. The mind, wanting to avoid the ache of uncertainty, learns a subtle trick. It converts the terror of commitment into the virtue of investigation. It tells you that you are being careful, that you are being thorough, that you are protecting your future self from regret. And this is how paralysis begins to dress itself like wisdom. At its surface, analysis paralysis looks like diligence, and it often starts from a good place. You want to get it right. You want to anticipate failure. You want to avoid waste. You want to protect what little time and energy you have from being poured into the wrong vessel. These are respectable motives, but they are also the perfect camouflage for something more primal. Fear, not of the world, but of the narrowing that action demands. Commitment is costly because it collapses possibility, and the ego, always addicted to keeping doors open, experiences that collapse as danger. To decide is to kill 1,000 alternate selves. To walk one path is to abandon the fantasy that you could have walked them all. And so the mind bargains. If I just learn a little more, I'll be ready. If I just compare a little more, I'll be certain. If I just wait a little longer, the right answer will become obvious. The right answer rarely becomes obvious. And what becomes obvious instead, if you're honest enough to look, is that you can spend your whole life preparing and never actually live. Paralysis is not neutral. Stillness has consequences. Every day you do not choose, you choose by default. Every week you do not begin, you reinforce the identity of the one who almost did. And the longer you remain in that suspended state, the more it begins to feel like your nature rather than your habit. Underneath paralysis, there is usually a superstition, a modern myth we rarely name aloud, that there exists a perfect decision which, if discovered, will remove regret. This is the new faith of the information age, the belief that the world is a clean equation and your job is to solve it before you move. But life is not a spreadsheet, and existence is not an optimization problem where the correct answer guarantees safety. Life is dynamic, adaptive, alive. The map changes as you walk, and the value of a choice is often created by the way you commit to it, rather than uncovered like a hidden treasure in the mind. Perfectionism feeds paralysis by promising a future without discomfort, whispering that if you think hard enough, you can avoid the sting of uncertainty, the embarrassment of being wrong, the vulnerability of beginning as a novice. And this is the trap. You try to purchase certainty with time, but certainty is not the price of entry. It is the reward of experience. You do not become clear by thinking yourself clear. You become clear by moving. There's also a structural cruelty to the world we've built around ourselves, a constant atmosphere of comparison that turns every simple decision into a referendum on your worth. You can watch the best performers in any craft, read 10 contradictory opinions on any topic, and access 1,000 toolkits for any project before you attempt your first step. And the result is an ironic condition. The more information you have, the less agency you feel. Because information without orientation becomes noise, and noise creates the sensation of being lost. The mind wants to reduce uncertainty, so it consumes more data. The data increases complexity, so uncertainty grows, and the loop closes like a tightening spiral. In that spiral, research stops being a bridge and becomes a hiding place. Planning stops being a tool and becomes a sedative. You tell yourself you are getting ready, but what you are really doing is staying safe from the exposure that action demands. the exposure to feedback, to imperfection, to being seen trying. The antidote, in practice, is rarely a better plan. It is a smaller step. Paralysis thrives on magnitude because big, abstract, high-stakes questions are too large to solve in the realm of pure thought. What career should I choose? What business should I build? What should my life become? These are real questions, but they are not questions you can answer by thinking harder, because they require the world to answer back. And the world answers through contact, through friction, through consequence, through feedback you cannot simulate in the mind. This is why the shift that saves you is subtle but decisive. Move from deciding to testing. Move from finding the perfect path to taking the smallest reversible action that generates new information. Send the message. Write the first paragraph. Build the ugly prototype. Make the call. Publish the rough draft. Put the idea in contact with reality. Reality is the great clarifier. Thought can only model. Reality reveals. And there is a deeper truth here, one that the overthinking mind forgets. Action is not the opposite of thinking. Action is a form of thinking. Only it thinks with your hands, it thinks with your time, it thinks with the honest language of consequences. If you look closely, you'll find that paralysis is rarely about the decision itself. It is about what the decision implies. Choosing one thing means rejecting others. Beginning means being seen. Acting means being judged. Committing means being responsible for outcomes you cannot fully control. And if you have built your identity around being capable, then failing publicly feels like more than failure. It feels like exposure, like a threat to the self you've been maintaining. So you hover, you refine, you optimize, you prepare, you reopen the same tabs, rewrite the same plan, reorganize the same notes, and the mind calls this progress because it resembles effort. But effort that never risks contact with reality is not progress. It is rehearsal in an empty theater. It is movement without distance. It is safety pretending to be work. There is a gentle practice that helps, not as a technique to conquer the mind, but as a way to return to honesty when you feel yourself sliding into the loop. Ask yourself what decision you are trying to avoid by thinking. Ask what discomfort action would force you to feel. Ask what the smallest step is that would teach you more than another hour of research. Then do that smallest step before the mind has time to renegotiate. Because the mind will renegotiate, it will argue, it will produce elegant reasons to delay, and it will do so with the voice of reason, even when it is powered by fear. The point is not to become reckless. The point is to stop pretending that perfect certainty is available, and to accept the humbler truth that most clarity is earned, not found. And this is where the hallway metaphor matters, because analysis paralysis is often the addiction to hallways. The hallway of infinite options feels safe because it asks nothing of you. You can stroll there forever, imagining every possible room, fantasizing about the life you could enter without ever risking the awkwardness of opening the door. But the rooms are where life happens. Every room requires a door to be opened, and every door requires a decision. And every decision requires the humility to accept that you will not know everything in advance. This is not a call to abandon thought. It is a call to make thought answerable to movement. If your thinking is not serving your action, it is not wisdom, it is delay. Choose the door, not because you are certain, but because you are alive. Step through, not as a final verdict on your future, but as an offering to reality. Let it meet you there, correct you there, shape you there. The life you want is not built inside the mind's perfect models. It is built where things can break, where you can learn, where you can begin.